Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I will be recording a video today about startup productivity and using those ideologies in your personal life, or I guess in mine. I'm going to turn on my webcam briefly, just so you can see that I'm a real person. I'm here. I'm a little bit sick, so I don't feel too comfortable showing my face the entire time. And you can hear I'm a little bit nasally, so excuse that. I've been planning to do this video for a good amount of time, and I just haven't had a chance to. And then I got sick and all kinds of messy stuff. Anyway, so let's get to it. So startup productivity in personal life, week one. So I decided to employ these startup productivity methodologies in my life, in my personal life, to accomplish a project. And this is technically my first check-in. I will be doing these once a week, hopefully on Wednesdays, maybe on Thursdays. At least that's when I'll be recording it. Who knows when it'll come out on YouTube? Friday sounds like a good day for that. And I'll be kind of checking in, with some of the things that I've learned, and with my personal progress. So let's talk about this. Well, actually, let me tell you a little bit of my background. I'm a web developer, and I've worked at tech startups for, I don't know, 5, 6 years, maybe a little bit longer. I don't count it as much, but I've worked at a lot of different startups, and none of them have gone down yet. Well, that sounds kind of mean, but none of them gone down. Every single one of them has flourished, and there were a lot of things that I learned in terms of productivity, project management, and otherwise, to stay on track and to get stuff done. So let's go through this presentation. It's only 11 slides, not too bad, but yeah, and you can see that it's extremely plain. I don't even have anti-aliasing on the fonts, and that's because I just want to start with the plainest possible presentation that I could make. Next one will probably have some GIFs of funny stuff. So why startups? So startups are basically concerned with, before I start this, I'm mostly talking about tech startups. That's where I have experience, and that's kind of what I'm referring to. But startups are concerned with productivity, velocity, and project completion. It's the number one thing that they're looking for. They get started, they have money, they want to put that money, to spend that money in such a way that they can get their product out into the market as quickly as possible with competitive features, right? So productivity is a huge deal. Velocity, and I'll be talking about these things a little bit more in depth the more I learn about it, and the more I use it in my life. The velocity is the idea behind keeping up momentum. You get a certain amount of things done every week, and you keep that up. A lot of startups suffer from stalling, getting to a point where they did a lot of work, and then it's really hard to do work, or maybe it's not as productive. Maybe there's not as much. And why can't I think of that word? Motivation to keep going, and so velocity drops off, and it's sometimes really difficult to do that. So it's good to track that. And there's project completion. Obviously, you want to get to the end and finish something, and I feel like those are huge concepts in terms of productivity in my personal life. I want to make sure that I keep things up. I want to make sure that I actually get stuff done, and I want to make sure that I do this as efficiently as possible. I don't want to waste my time because my time is precious. I looked up statistics that says that 3 businesses are created per second, basically every second of the day around the world. So it's 3 businesses, 3 startups that come into existence every second. So I don't know. I've been recording this for about almost 4 minutes. 4 times 60. I'm not gonna do math, but you get the idea. So apps and apps methodologies, etc., are pioneered in startup space. So the interesting thing is that since startups have such a churn rate that they have to basically hit the ground running. And if they fail, they're done, and you have to start a new company, or it dissolves and people go elsewhere. But it is the space where there's such a churn rate that people will go through all these different applications, methodologies, and you can really see what works and what doesn't. The startups that it worked for, those methodologies either get used for future startups that the founders or the company employees start, or they will survive in that startup indefinitely. And it's really the only place where these methodologies get truly tested. you can see that some of these methodologies and apps migrate their way into enterprise development or enterprise companies that have like a tech subsector. But it usually originates from startup space. You usually don't see an enterprise company come up with a new way of doing things and that trickling down. And that's just mostly because of the fact that startups move so quickly. Now, as far as productivity tips for individuals, not as much of a churn rate. There's no money. There's other things like motivation, changing your mind. With startups, you're kind of locked in. You can pivot, but you're burning through money, so you don't have much time. And I've read a lot of blogs on productivity, and most of them, it's literally just the author wanting to make money from writing on productivity, not the author having ideas or having the best methodology. I'm not really making any money off of this. I'm not gonna make any money off. I might put down an affiliate link or two, or maybe like a book or whatever, but this is more for me. Anyway, and I know startups, so that's the best place to start. Don't mind the typo here. So why not X? So over the past 5-6 years, pretty much as long as I've been working at startups, I have been really into productivity. I've been trying to figure out what's the best way to approach productivity. I try to-do lists, but to-do lists often get very overwhelming. They're never ending. And there's not really a satisfaction of being done. To-do lists are just like these open doors for anything to come in, and you're like, okay, I get this done, I get this done, I get this done, and there's stuff always coming in. Now, I read a really cool book called, I think it's called Getting Past OK, and I'm going to link it in the notes below the video. Getting Past OK is a book by, I believe, like one of the first Microsoft engineers. I know he worked for Microsoft Word, the guy, I don't remember his name. But he talked about, how to-do lists get overwhelming and eventually they get unproductive. They do the opposite. They're just like a chore list that you don't want to do. And he suggested, you write down a date by when you need to get that task done, and you just get it done. And if it's and that's pretty much his approach. That didn't really work well for me because sometimes I can get stuff done faster, sometimes not. Sometimes I can kind of push off the priorities, and again, the list is always never ending. The second thing that I tried was Habitica. So that's a gamified to-do list, and it is actually really cool. I've been using it for the past 2.5 years, maybe 3 years. I even wrote myself a desktop application so I can use it on my desktop and I don't have to pull up the website. But it's basically like a to-do list. It has several different to-do lists. That's what I'm trying to say. It has like a habit to-do list, which means that you can finish a task, but you can finish it indefinitely, like taking the stairs instead of taking the elevator, that kind of thing. It's more of a habit builder. You have daily tasks, which are things that repeat every single day or every certain day of the week. That's a really cool feature that I haven't seen on a single to-do list app out there. And I think that's one of the best features of Habitica. And the third to-do list that they offer you is just a regular to-do list with a deadline or without a deadline. And let me show you what that looks like real quick. So I specifically used a tag to filter out some of the to-dos that I don't want anybody to see, but you can see that it's gamified. You have a user, you have health bar, you have experience. The more tasks you check off, the more experience you get, the more you level up. You can have a party, so these are people that quote unquote fight bosses with me. And for every day getting your daily work done, you attack the boss for a certain amount. And it's pretty cool. You can have sub checklists and so on, and this is the habit where you press plus or minus if you did it or if you forgot to do it. You can check off this, that you've done the task for the day. If it's grayed out, that means that it's not for the day, but you can still finish it. And then you have a regular to-do list. Let me get back to the present. Okay. Oops. Okay, so that's Habitica. It's great, but again, it gets to be way too long. Sometimes it's really difficult to set up because you have to filter by tags, and sometimes you forget to tag things, and it didn't really work well for me. And again, it's just a to-do list, a fancy to-do. One of the other things that I tried is Evernote and getting things done. This method, I used this method for about 5 years. When I started being interested in productivity, the first thing that people suggested is, set up getting things done on Evernote. And it's great, but it can get messy with tags. And again, it feels like a long to-do list that never gets done. But I understand the thinking behind it. I still think that that's a really great way to do stuff. if you're not on a project by project basis. I feel like it's better to structure your productivity and things you want to do by projects, like project to, get your inbox to 0, and that's a project, not a to do. So anything else? There's one more method that I've used, and it's a method that I invented, and it's called monthly goals. And it's basically the idea. I ripped this idea from an event called NaNoWriMo, which is the National Novel Writing Month. And the NaNoWriMo, basically the idea is to write 1,700 words a day for a month, and by the end of the month, you have a great first draft. And you don't care, you don't care about getting everything perfect. You just want to get the words out. You want to get the words down. What's great about it is that not only are you writing and getting things done a small bit at a time, but you also have a community around you. So my monthly goals idea was to pick a project for the month, and every day do something to help that project. So if my inbox is 2,000 unread emails, I would say, I don't know, get 100 emails read a day, read or deleted, whatever. And I would do that every single day. By the end of the month, my inbox is to 0. There's also the community aspect. So with inboxes, not too great. But if I want to, let's say, compose a song, this actually works really great because I can get on a subreddit about songwriting. I can get on a Slack chat room if I can find one. I can, follow some great new DJs or whatever on Twitter and just, get to know them, get to know the community, and that helps you kind of push forward with projects. I feel like that's still a great thing. But again, it didn't entirely work for me for some things, and I just wanted to try something new. So the goal. Let's talk about the goal. So I wanted to kind of transition here a little bit less rigidly, but yeah, here it is. I want to run my productivity like a startup, like I said at the beginning, and the idea is to get an MVP out by the end of a certain at the end of a certain term. So I'm gonna be doing this until the end of October. So by that point, I hope I have an MVP. I choose the MVP from my top interests. MVP is a minimal viable product. The keyword is minimum viable. It's basically a product that satisfies the minimum minimum requirements that you have for the product to work correctly. This is a huge thing in startups. It means that when you get an MVP, you can go to the market and then add features. It means that you can start getting customers and paid, and then add features that make you excel above and beyond everybody else. And I think this is actually really cool because it's kind of like it satisfies the procrastinator in me. I want to be as lazy as possible, but get my shit done anyway. So this is it. This is my minimum that I need to do to feel accomplished. Apply agile principles to the process. So recently, my company switched to being more agile, I would say, and I wanted to explore these processes in terms of productivity. So one cool thing about agile processes is that you have a big project and then you keep subdividing it until you get the low level task of what you need to do. So for example, if I wanted to build a website, that would be like a big project, and you could subdivide that into and I don't know the terminology yet. I have it written down. You can subdivide it into several categories like design, development, and system administration. You can subdivide design into a few other things like mock-ups and getting the content and whatever. And you keep subdividing it until you end up with something like write content for about page, or develop widget for sidebar, or something like that. Extremely low level tasks, and you go through those, and you try to keep up your velocity by doing these tasks at a certain amount every week. The cool thing is that every day you're supposed to look back and say, this is what I've done, this is what I'm going to be doing, and if there are any blockers, I'm going to be going over these things a little bit more in depth once, maybe like next week. But that's kind of the idea. You keep reflecting back on what happened, you keep looking forward to what's going to happen, and you look at what's right in front of you. Is there a blocker? Do you need help with something? And so on. Now, you can't apply really agile principles alone, because I'm going to stand up and look in the mirror and tell myself about what I did yesterday? Doesn't really work. But it will work for these purposes. I'm going to write it down in a journal, and most likely every week, I'm going to have a big stand-up that I'm going to have as part of this video. So that works for me. There are also accountability buddies. So I'm thinking of contacting a few people and seeing if I can talk to them and be, just tell them, this is what I'm working on. This is what I've been working on. Keep me accountable. But that's it. Check in for accountability. It's these videos. It's my friends and the network of people that I have that help me keep in check. Lastly, the cool thing about startups is that they pivot when it's necessary. So if they have a project and they're thinking, this is going to be the next big thing. Let's say it's what's a good idea? A health wristband, a wristband that basically tracks your health, monitors your health. And they're like, this is gonna be the coolest thing ever. And 2 months in, they're like, oh, you know what? Apple already does this, and the new Apple Watch is coming out that's gonna have more stuff. Pebble already does this, and the new Pebble, Pebble Health or whatever is coming out, and it's gonna basically do all these things. And we don't have enough money to make a better product or to market it. So you pivot. For example, that wristwatch or wristband could become a I don't know a armband that you put on right before a workout, and it could be one of those things that instead of having it on all the time, it's temporary. Maybe it's a feature band that you load up apps on, and you're able to do things like just check off a to-do list, and it's just a wristband or whatever it is. And the important thing is that you don't get stuck doing something that doesn't work for you just because it's a goal. So imagine I'm a startup. I've been thinking about this a lot. So what's my MVP? What's going to be my minimum viable product? I'm going to go through this, and I have a few slides. This is going to be a quick one. What's my MVP? What is the end goal that I want to have? And who are the investors? Now, I am the investor, but investor into my own startup, so to speak. But there are other people as well. Who are the people that are going to be affected by me working? There, and what is the ultimate goal with that MVP? Is it going to succeed? What is it? What is my drive behind this? So my MVP could be my wristwatch or band, whatever. But my investors could be saying that, well, I don't care if you have a wristband. I just want you to make money, right? Like that's typical investor, but not all the time. And now I don't know the investment part of startup too well, but my idea is basically that, well, what do you want to get out of this as a whole, despite what the product is? Next one, what is the necessary initial investment? Time, money, and energy. If I wanted to start composing music on a keyboard, I need to get a keyboard. That's money. Now, it's going to take me, 20 minutes a day of practicing to get semi-good at a keyboard to be able to compose, a dumb electronica song. That's time. And on top of that, maybe I have to sacrifice some sleep because I don't have any other time during the day to do it. That's energy. So what is my initial investment? And that's something worth asking yourself. What problem are we solving? Maybe I need to merge these together, the investors and the problem. What is it that I'm trying to do with this MVP? Am I trying to get ahead in life? Am I trying to just get something done? Am I trying to do something that I'll feel good about? Am I trying to do something that I feel bad about not having done? So on. And who are the right people to network with? And this is an important part as well. So you need to surround yourself with people that can help you along with what you're doing. Now, in the tech world, for example, as a developer, there are several communities I follow that if I am stuck on something, I know who to contact and ask them, hey, look, I'm stuck on this network administration issue. What the fuck am I supposed to do here? Or I'm stuck on this one stupid bug. Any idea what this could be? And who is my audience? Well, that's the next one. Who is my audience? Maybe I overdid this a little bit. But again, who is my audience? Who am I doing this product for? Am I doing it for myself? Am I doing it for my family? Am I doing it for somebody else? Am I actually building a product that I want to sell? That's a good question. And competition. Competition is a good way of looking at, what have other people done that I'm trying to emulate here, productivity-wise. Now, all of this, if you kind of sum it up, it doesn't make sense to do this entire, set up this entire framework for, let's say, getting the trash out. But for example, if my project was to clean up the house or something like that, I could definitely figure out, well, what's my competition? That's more of a, hey, what do other clean houses look like and what do I need to do to get there? That's a good idea. Or what do other people do in order to be more productive in this area? Maybe they take out the trash every day so that they don't have to pile it up and, have to do it, once a week. Or maybe they do it several times a week, but let it pile up until that point. You never know. So my top interests, and I call these public because there are some things that I'm interested in as well that I don't really want to share. So I'm interested in music production, fitness, digital art, gaming, meditation, reading, electronics, photography, male fashion, writing, anime and manga, and programming. I follow kind of the I follow the advice of do what you know, and start there. So for my trial, my startup trial, whatever that I'm going to be doing for the next 2 months, I picked the two things that plus three private ones. Sorry, I picked the two things that I know well and that I've been doing well for a long time: writing and programming. I'd like to make basically quote unquote a product that involves these two ideas, and then you pick the secondaries, which is kind of secondary interest that can maybe aid you in this. In this idea, reading and gaming kind of helps me with inspiration for writing. Reading can help me with programming, and so on. And the idea behind reading is basically to, let's say, read a certain amount or read certain things. And a wild card. And wild card is basically one of these interests if it pops up. And again, I can pivot, right? So what's the product? Well, there are several that I came up with. So for writing, I want to make a book to sell. I've been writing books for a long time. I started writing my first book when I was 12. Never finished it, but I did start. I've written 4 or 5 books. Several of them are on Amazon. They're not doing well. And I've been wanting to write a book that I can, show to a publisher. I've been writing a lot for myself, and I'd like to write something that I can sell, or that I can show somebody, or that I can try to get indoor with a publisher. So that's gonna be my motivator. Who's my audience? Well, the publisher is my audience for a book. What's my MVP? It's a book that's going to be, I don't know, 150 pages, 200 pages long. It's not too long, but it's a great first draft to build on. The second thing I wanted to do is write a program to write the book. That's how I involved these two topics. I've been frustrated with writing programs for a long time. From, I don't know, Microsoft Words to Scrivener to just regular Markdown, Markpads or whatever, Markdown notebooks, whatever. And I've been wanting to write my own. And so that's going to be my programming goal. That's going to be my MVP. My MVP is going to be basically a desktop Markdown editor. That's it. And books and games that inspire the above. So that's where the writing and gaming. I've been thinking, just to give you a glimpse, I've been thinking of writing a book that's young adult fiction. That's like post-apocalyptic. It seems to be a very popular genre. Maybe throw in some supernatural stuff. But what can I do to inspire myself to write these things? And the more you read of a genre, the easier it is to write. At least that's my belief. So I'm wanting to read stuff like, I don't know, Divergent. I've never read that before. Heard it's pretty good. I've seen the movie. And games that inspire the above. So again, I would have to find games that would inspire me to write. It's where I would get my ideas. So what are my goals for next week? So I already checked in with you guys with what I did already. Kind of came up with this idea, came up with an MVP. And what do I want to do next week? Well, I want to create an initial mock-up of the writing software so I can see if it's even a good idea. Research into recent successful books for reading and writing. So again, finding the books that are really hot right now, that publishers are looking for books that are exactly like. And you kind of see that a lot. When Hunger Games came out, when Hunger Games hit fame, within a few weeks, you went into Barnes & Noble, the young adult fiction section was basically littered with books that were almost identical. It's a girl with a bow. It's a girl with a sword, and she's living in a post-apocalyptic world, and it's oppressive. She needs to do something. I feel like the success of Divergent is very much from there. And when Twilight came out, within a few weeks, or I don't want to say weeks, but within a few months of Twilight hitting fame, you saw a lot of books, young adult fiction books, written on vampires, werewolves, and supernatural beings. And somebody said, let me do witches because it's not too close, but it's still a similar genre. I'll also do game research to pick the games that I want to play that'll make sense for me, and research into using the right apps to increase productivity. I've been trying to figure out a good project management tracker. At work, we use Pivotal Tracker, which is great because it allows you to do the low-level tasks for Agile. It keeps track of your velocity and figures out what your velocity is. So it tells you, you do it for a few weeks, and after a few weeks, it says, on average, you get 22 tasks done, but that's it. So you should probably count on 22 tasks done and nothing more. Um, but it's paid. I don't really want to do. I don't really want to go with that. I might look into it, but that's the money investment part. But we'll see what happens from there. And I think this is the end of my presentation. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation. I'm hoping that next week I'm not going to be sick and I'm going to be able to show my face in front of everybody. And my other hope is that I'll be able to show you guys something that I actually accomplished and got done. That would be amazing. I don't really know how to sign this off, but I'll figure it out next.